Well, the Justice Department has released transcripts and audio from Ghislaine Maxwell's revealing sit-down with then Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Watch.
So you think he did not die by suicide, given all the things we just talked about?
I do not believe he died by suicide, no.
And do you believe that, do you have any speculation or view of who killed him?
No, I don't.
Let's bring in Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. Greg, thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you. Let's dialogue a little bit, although I may be a handmaiden of the patriarchy. Not quite
We're
sure.
going to give you all the words and use as many as you can in this interview. What do you make of this interview, by the way? I mean, why did the DOJ drop it? And was there anything in the interview that really caught your attention?
Some useful bits, I think. First of all, I think the DOJ should be commended for actually doing the interview, then releasing the audio and the transcript. You know, people can judge for themselves her answers and credibility. As to whether his death was suicide or homicide, look, that's always going to be a disputed mystery. She thinks he was murdered. She doesn't know. It's pure speculation. Elsewhere, though, Maxwell did offer, some personal knowledge about things, the ideas of a client blackmail list. She said that was rank rumor. Bill Clinton never traveled to Epstein's private island. And President Trump, she said, never did anything inappropriate with anybody. She didn't think he contributed to the so-called birthday book. What was not credible, though, Rachel, is her account of Epstein's underage abuse, saying, well, he probably did it, but she never saw it. That is not plausible, but understand her conviction is still on appeal, so she didn't want to make incriminating statements.
Yeah, she also said she wasn't involved in any of the trafficking, which also is dubious and doesn't give her good credibility. But let's move on to this other topic, which is the president saying that, well, watch this from the president talking about John Bolton, and then we'll come on the other side.
I guess his house was raided today, but my house was raided also, called Mar-a-Lago. They went through everything they could, including my young son's room and my wife's area. They went through her drawers, as the expression goes. They went through everything you can imagine. So, so I know the feeling. It's not a good feeling.
Greg, you say there are 3 possibilities for this raid on John Bolton's home. What do you think they are?
Well, first of all, a federal judge is obviously convinced there's probable cause to believe that evidence of a crime could be found in Bolton's home and office, and thus the raid. But whether charges will be brought, we just don't know. There are several possibilities. Keeping classified documents in your home or office or on a private computer, Hillary Clinton, is a crime, and so too is leaking or sending it to others, like family members, who have no security clearance. So, the FBI is searching for not just incriminating, but corroborating evidence, hard copies, notes, records, electronic communications. I think that's what they're really looking for. And remember, all of this originated 5 years ago. Bolton decided to write a tell-all book. Government tried to stop it because there was classified information. And the federal judge admonished Bolton, saying, you're gambling with national security. You could be criminally prosecuted. Bolton had a $2 million advance, didn't care, went ahead with a book. It was foolhardy, and it seems to have morphed into a broader, more serious investigation.
Well, he went ahead with the book. And as you know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander when it comes to classified documents and the way the government wants to charge people and also go into their homes to find out if it's true. Greg Jarrett, love having you on.
All right, good dialoguing here. Good dialoguing.
You go off on your normative self.
Okay, meanwhile, the Justice Department releasing the transcripts and audio from their interview with Jeffrey Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell.
Rebecca Castor joins us now with the details. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, Rachel. Well, for everyone looking for a smoking gun here, I'll tell you it's not in these interviews. Deputy Attorney Todd Blanche interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell for 2 days last month, the only person ever convicted for aiding Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. While she didn't offer any new incriminating evidence, she did make some interesting claims. Here's what she told prosecutors about President Trump's behavior.
I actually never saw the president in any type of massage setting. I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects.
And as for another president's relationship with Epstein,
You're not aware of President Clinton ever going to the island?
He absolutely never went, and I can be sure of that because there's no way he would have gone. I don't believe there's any way that he would have gone to the island had I not been there.
Maxwell also claims Epstein never kept a client list and shut down theories that he was working for U.S. or foreign intelligence services. The Department of Justice previously determined Epstein killed himself in jail in 2019, but Maxwell thinks otherwise.
So you think he did not die by suicide, given all the things we just talked about?
I do not believe he died by suicide, no.
And do you believe that, do you have any speculation or view of who killed him?
No, I don't.
This story likely doesn't end here. Yesterday, the DOJ also released thousands of pages from the Epstein files to the House Oversight Committee. Lawmakers plan to make those public once they've been thoroughly reviewed. Charlie, Rachel, and Griff, back to you.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you.
So that obviously that is not answering all the questions, and I don't really necessarily believe anything she says, but it does sort of, I think, help the administration in that they're like, look, we're releasing all the information that we can release, and I think that that's what we're doing here.
I think what people really want to know is, was there a foreign intelligence connection to Jeffrey Epstein? Was there a CIA connection to Epstein? Did the CIA know if there was a foreign intelligence operation, a blackmail operation happening? And again, to your point about her credibility, she says she was not involved in trafficking, when we know from the victims that she absolutely was. So who knows what happened? But we should know that only because if there was a blackmail scheme going on and foreign intelligence or domestic intelligence was involved and it involved underage girls, that's crossing the line. And we as citizens need to know.
See where it goes.
Absolutely.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.